morning, imagine standing in the holy city of Mecca, not for a religious pilgrimage, but to witness a handshake that could, well, quietly signal the end of 70 years of American military dominance in the Middle East.
Right, which is a massive shift.
It is. That is exactly the kind of tectonic shift happening right now beneath the surface of the daily headlines. In an era where information moves at just a frantic pace, clarity is often the first casualty. You rely on facts, stripped of sensation and, tribalism to understand the world as it truly operates.
Exactly.
And that is our mission today. We are here to provide a clear, neutral, and strictly factual analysis of regional and global current events over the past 2 weeks. We're cutting through the noise so you have exactly what you need to understand the strategic landscape. This deep dive is brought to you by ProWave AI and is generated by Stylo News, the AI-powered news application.
We really do have a lot to get through today.
We certainly do. So what follows is the Stylo News Intel Update Middle East Situation Report, 12 August 2026.
Let's get right into it.
Just quickly for your context, Stylo News is the consumer version of the Stylo Intel Ops software. That enterprise system is traditionally designed for operations across government, military, and corporate sectors. This means that you, as the listener, now have unique access to a tool specifically engineered to support global decision makers.
Which is pretty unprecedented access, really.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
So our roadmap for today is straightforward, but it is dense. We will analyze the strategic situation, the conflict zones, and flashpoints at the international level. Our lens is focused heavily on the Middle East, specifically the intersecting crises in Gaza, Lebanon, Iran, and Yemen.
Right.
We will examine the facts on the ground, the driving motivations of the key decision makers, and of course, the most likely immediate courses of action. So let us begin at the geographic epicenter of the current diplomatic impasse, which is Gaza.
Yeah, that's really where we have to start.
The core intelligence finding from the past 2 weeks is, well, it's unequivocal. The U.S.-backed Gaza plan draft has been completely rejected. Furthermore, any genuine disarmament of Hamas is assessed as highly unlikely in the near term.
Right. And the rejection of that draft isn't just a matter of diplomatic stubbornness. I mean, it is deeply rooted in how both sides calculate their very survival.
Okay.
When we look at the decision makers, we see two mutually exclusive demands creating this deadlock. On one side, you have Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who insists that there will be no Israeli military withdrawal from Gaza until Hamas is fully and crucially verifiably disarmed.
Verifiably disarmed.
Exactly. This is driven by an absolute prioritization of territorial security.
Yeah.
From his vantage point, disarmament is not some aspirational goal for the end of a peace process.
Yeah.
It is a non-negotiable precondition before any withdrawal can even begin.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second, because normally in conflict resolution, a ceasefire is step 1, right?
Yeah.
And disarmament is like step 10. But if both sides view their demands as existential preconditions, it's not just two trains refusing to switch tracks. It's almost like two trains hurtling toward each other where both engineers have just deliberately ripped out the brakes.
That's a very accurate way to look at it.
So what is the most likely course of action we will see in the immediate future? Are we looking at a perpetual standstill?
Well, a perpetual violent standstill is the most accurate forecast right now.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the other train on that track, for Hamas, their weapons are the sole guarantor of their political survival.
Right.
It's their internal legitimacy among their base and obviously their bargaining power. To disarm before a full Israeli withdrawal would essentially concede all of Israel's war aims without, securing their own continued existence.
To be giving up their only leverage.
Precisely. So they categorically refuse disarmament without that full withdrawal first. Because these positions are just structurally incompatible, you should not expect to see verifiable demobilization anytime soon.
Yeah, that makes sense.
There won't be a moment where weapons are just handed over to third-party international monitors in town squares. It's just not going to happen.
So if we aren't going to see a genuine surrender of capabilities, what does the reality on the ground actually look like for, say, the next few weeks?
Well, you are likely to see tactical, highly localized ceasefires.
Okay.
Essentially, brief pauses to move civilians or secure limited supplies. Diplomatically, you will hear a lot of rhetorical flexibility.
Right, playing with words.
Exactly. Negotiators will play with the wording of agreements to buy time and appease international partners. But physically, On the ground, expect Hamas to focus on the temporary concealment of arms.
Not surrender, just hiding them better.
Right. They will disperse their forces and integrate their remaining assets much deeper into civilian infrastructure or whatever surviving subterranean networks they have to preserve them. The deadlock is institutional at this point.
And, that deadlock in Gaza isn't happening in a vacuum, obviously. It's creating this intense pressure cooker effect that is actively blowing the lid off the northern border.
It's a direct spillover.
Exactly. The diplomatic failure in Gaza is directly causing a physical spillover of violence into Lebanon. The intelligence confirms the total breakdown of the June 2026 U.S.-brokered ceasefire in that region.
Yeah, and the breakdown is no longer theoretical. I mean, it has materialized in highly lethal specific exchanges over just the past 2 weeks.
Right. Recently, an explosion in a booby-trapped building resulted in the deaths of 2 Israeli soldiers. Following that incident, the Israeli military initiated a wave of retaliatory airstrikes on Hezbollah targets across southern Lebanon.
Significant strikes, yes.
This included operations in areas like Mansouri, Tibnan, and noticeably the construction of a newly built earthen barrier by Israeli troops inside the Lebanese village of Zatar al-Ghurbiya.
That barrier is a very important detail.
Let me start there for a second, actually. An earthen barrier? That sounds almost medieval, right?
Right.
Why are modern mechanized units building walls of dirt?
Well, it does sound low-tech, but it is actually highly effective for immediate tactical defense. An earthen berm disrupts the line of sight for anti-tank guided missiles, which, Hezbollah uses extensively.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right, so it provides physical cover for armored vehicles and effectively demarcates a new temporary territorial reality on the ground. The Israeli military views that booby trap explosion as a blatant, undeniable violation of the June ceasefire.
Sure.
So from their strategic viewpoint, precision strikes and these physical barriers are a necessary operational requirement to degrade Hezbollah's infrastructure and essentially physically protect northern Israeli communities.
And meanwhile, the government in Beirut seems entirely sidelined in all of this.
Yeah, the Lebanese government is in a remarkably precarious position right now.
I can imagine.
Their official stance continues to advocate for peaceful negotiations. They are calling for a phased Israeli withdrawal from southern Lebanon, and they desperately want the Lebanese armed forces to step in and stabilize the border.
But they can't.
No, they have a glaring enforcement problem. Their ability to secure the border is severely limited by Hezbollah, which conducts independent military actions and largely just rejects those diplomatic frameworks.
Right, and we can clearly see this tension reflected in the global digital discourse. When we utilize the Stylo AI to analyze social media sentiment, specifically across X, the conversation surrounding this northern front is intensely polarized.
Highly polarized.
Pro-Israel accounts heavily emphasize Israel's fundamental right to self-defense against Iranian-backed proxies. They frame the strikes in Lebanon as precise and necessary security measures. Conversely, pro-Lebanon and neutral monitoring sources express deep concern over the human cost.
The civilian toll is a major focus there.
Exactly. They heavily note the Lebanese civilian casualties, including at least 1 death and over a dozen injuries recently, and they express outrage over the destruction of civilian infrastructure. To cut through the jargon here, how does the intelligence community view this kind of digital divide?
They view it as a textbook asymmetric narrative.
Okay, meaning what?
Meaning one side of the global public focuses entirely on the origin of the security threat, the spark, if you will.
Right.
While the other side focuses entirely on the disproportionate impact of the military response, which is the fire. There is almost zero overlap in how these two groups process the exact same event.
That is fascinating. Now, to truly understand the localized violence in Gaza and Lebanon, we have to pull back and look at the broader regional power broker orchestrating much of this tension, and that's Iran.
Yes, all roads lead to Tehran.
The intelligence details a very specific, somewhat counterintuitive posture for Tehran right now. A major, direct Iranian military attack on Israel is assessed as unlikely in the immediate term. Instead, Iran's focus is heavily directed toward maritime coercion, applying pressure through its proxy networks, and engaging in intense, high-stakes negotiations with Oman regarding access to the Strait of Hormuz.
And those negotiations in Oman are absolutely critical for you to watch.
Why is that?
Well, Iran is utilizing the threat of closing the Strait of Hormuz, which is a vital maritime choke point where a massive percentage of the world's oil flows, as their primary strategic lever right now.
Right.
They are demanding that the United States lift its naval blockade, cease military aggression in the region, and release frozen Iranian assets before they will guarantee the uninterrupted reopening of that strait.
Now, here's where I need some clarification. We have reports that Iranian President Pezeshkian has publicly called to end this status of neither war nor peace with the U.S.
He has.
He's citing the severe economic pressure and domestic strain inside Iran. So if their economy is suffocating, why do the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, and Iranian hardliners prefer to keep these proxy conflicts boiling? Wouldn't a stabilizing diplomatic deal that lifts sanctions be better for them?
It seems contradictory on the surface, yes. But it really comes down to the underlying logic of Iranian grand strategy.
Okay.
It operates almost like a ruthless venture capital firm.
Think a venture capital firm.
Yeah, the IRGC understands that a direct state-on-state war with Israel or the United States would invite massive, regime-threatening retaliation.
Right. Conventionally, they're outmatched.
Exactly. Conventionally, they are vastly outmatched. So instead of risking everything in a direct conflict, they invest small amounts of resources into various proxy startups, essentially.
Wow.
Hezbollah in Lebanon, militias in Iraq and Syria, and the Houthis in Yemen.
So if one proxy fails, the regime doesn't collapse. But if one succeeds in hurting an adversary, Tehran reaps the geopolitical dividends.
Precisely. This strategy achieves a dual objective for them. They impose continuous military and economic costs on their adversaries, bleeding them slowly.
Right.
But most importantly, it gives Tehran plausible deniability. It gives them strategic leverage without triggering a full-scale regional war that they would likely lose. They can turn the heat up or down in different theaters depending on what they need at the negotiating table in Oman.
But that strategy inherently raises the ambient threat level for everyone else in the region.
Absolutely.
And the data absolutely supports an elevated threat assessment. The intelligence neutrally reports a highly elevated risk to Western military forces and Gulf Cooperation Council, or GCC, countries.
We're seeing a lot of activity there.
Yes, we are tracking unconfirmed but persistent reports of Iranian or IRGC drone strikes targeting Kuwait, the Jebel Ali port area in Dubai, and facilities in Bahrain. How exactly does a drone strike in Dubai pressure Western forces?
Well, it functions as a massive hike on the insurance premium of global trade. Even if these strikes remain unverified by official channels, the persistence of the claims creates a climate of fear. It signals to international markets that Western capital, shipping hubs, and military bases just aren't safe anywhere in the Gulf.
It destabilizes the whole concept of safety there.
Exactly. And it forces the U.S. and its allies to expend massive resources playing defense across multiple countries.
Which brings us to a fundamental law of geopolitics, which is every action generates a reaction.
Always.
The persistent threat from Iran and its proxies has catalyzed a historic realignment of regional powers. These nations are no longer waiting for external guarantees. They are actively moving to secure their own backyards, which leads us to a major development from August 7th.
This is a huge story.
It really is. Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Pakistan officially signed a joint defense pact in the city of Mecca.
And this is a monumental restructuring of the regional security architecture.
Yeah.
You have Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan actively seeking to counterbalance Iranian influence and Houthi aggression.
Right.
Historically, Saudi Arabia and Turkey have been regional rivals, competing for influence. The fact that they are aligning now shows just how serious they view the threat.
Yeah.
But more profoundly, they're doing this to deliberately reduce their long-standing dependence on the United States.
Hold on, let's look at the mechanics of this pact. Pakistan is the third signatory here.
Yes.
Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif is bringing Pakistan into this agreement. Pakistan has nuclear weapons.
You do.
Are we saying that a Houthi missile hitting Riyadh could technically trigger a Pakistani nuclear response? How does this pact actually function in reality?
Well, it is less about an automatic nuclear tripwire and more about a layered deterrent strategy.
Okay.
Turkey brings NATO-level conventional military experience and advanced drone technology. Saudi Arabia brings immense capital and geographic depth. Pakistan brings a massive standing army and, frankly, the ultimate psychological deterrent of a nuclear umbrella.
Right. The threat is there, even if it's not a hair trigger.
Exactly. By combining forces, they are telling Tehran and Washington that they possess the strategic autonomy to handle regional threats independently. Consequently, this alignment has raised severe security concerns next door in India, demonstrating how a Middle Eastern pact instantly sends shockwaves into South Asia.
And the exact threat this mega pact is trying to counter is situated right on Saudi Arabia's southern border. Let's examine the Yemen flashpoint.
The Houthis.
The Houthis, backed by Iran's proxy strategy, have steadily escalated their operations. We have specific recent events confirming this.
Huh.
A Houthi drone strike successfully targeted the Saudi Aramco refinery in Jazan. Furthermore, on August 11th, a Houthi missile strike resulted in the deaths of 3 people on a commercial ship transiting the Bab el-Mandeb Strait.
And the human and economic toll in Yemen is no longer contained to just the Arabian Peninsula?
No.
I mean, it is actively fracturing global trade at this point. The Houthis have proven they have both the capability and the intent to maintain this pressure indefinitely.
And why should you, as the listener, care about a strait thousands of miles away? Because that single 20-mile-wide stretch of water dictates whether the price of your morning coffee, your electronics, and your fuel skyrockets next month.
Exactly.
When ships have to reroute around the entire continent of Africa to avoid Houthi missiles, the cost of global shipping multiplies exponentially, and that cost is passed directly to the consumer.
Right, and the United States military is being forced to react to this persistent threat to the freedom of navigation.
Yes, the Pentagon is currently accelerating its missile defense procurement programs across the board. They are also maintaining a very heavy military readiness posture stateside. This is evidenced by the 9,000 U.S. service members currently participating in the Northern Strike 26-2 exercises back in Michigan.
It's a massive exercise.
What exactly does an exercise like Northern Strike look like for those troops?
Well, it is not just target practice, I can tell you that. Northern Strike is a massive, multi-domain training event. You have 9,000 troops practicing complex logistics, rapidly moving armored columns, coordinating close air support, and critically, practicing how to intercept swarm drone attacks in difficult terrain.
Preparing for exactly what's happening.
All right, they are simulating the exact types of chaotic, evolving battlefield conditions they are seeing in the Red Sea and the Levant right now.
The physical movements of those troops, the signing of defense pacts in Mecca, the missile launches in the Bab el-Mandeb, these are the tangible elements of the conflict. But there is a parallel war being fought, and it is entirely digital.
Always is these days.
Let us transition to the information war. We need to examine how global populations are reacting to these physical events through the Stylo News AI sentiment analysis. The AI aggregates data from hundreds of traditional news sources and across X in over 20 languages instantly.
That's a lot of data to parse.
It is. Objectively summarizing the overall global sentiment across all the regions we've discussed today reveals a landscape that is highly polarized, deeply fragmented, and marked by intense volatility.
Yeah, the psychological terrain is just as gridlocked as the diplomatic negotiations in Gaza.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. What the data clearly shows is a profound lack of faith in institutions. Whenever sources report on diplomatic solutions, for instance, the recent ceasefire talks in Rome regarding Lebanon, or the ongoing negotiations in Oman regarding the Strait of Hormuz, those reports are met with widespread, almost universal public skepticism.
It's like people only believe the bullets, not the handshakes.
That is an incredibly accurate assessment. People simply do not believe the diplomacy will hold. Yet, when kinetic military updates are posted, airstrikes, drone launches, troop movements, the reaction is immediate and visceral.
And the AI shows that military actions trigger fierce, instantaneous tribalism. Users retreat instantly into one of two camps. There is defensive nationalism, where users cheer on strikes as absolute necessary security measures to protect their borders.
Yeah.
Or there's humanitarian outrage, where users condemn the exact same actions as war crimes and focus entirely on the civilian toll. There is virtually no middle ground or nuanced discussion to be found in the aggregate data.
So when we look at the thousands of data points ingested by the Stylo AI, we have to ask what the baseline global mood actually is right now.
Well, amidst all that data, there is no dominant positive shift in global sentiment. Hope is not the prevailing emotion currently trending. A persistent state of tension, an underlying fear of a wider regional war drawing in global superpowers, and deep anxiety over severe oil route disruptions remains the absolute baseline for the global public.
It reflects a world that is just holding its collective breath, watching the map to see which of these flashpoints, Gaza, Lebanon, Hormuz, or Yemen, will ignite the others first.
That concludes our strategic overview for today's briefing. To ensure you have continuous access to this level of unvarnished analysis, I want to briefly explain the tool powering the insights you just heard.
It's a great tool.
Stylo News is a mobile and computer application that you can download and customize to receive your own personal, intelligence-style briefs. It doesn't just skim the surface of the morning caper. It aggregates and analyzes data from hundreds of traditional news sources and social media platforms like X, processing information in over 20 languages instantly. It removes the bias, filters out the panic, and presents the facts so you can make informed
I
decisions.
highly recommend checking it out.
To get AI-powered news on demand tailored to your specific strategic interests, subscribe today at www.stylonews.com. All right, I am going to step out from behind the anchor desk now. Thank you so much for joining us for today's deep dive. We know this is incredibly heavy material, and we really appreciate you taking the time to unpack all of this complex geopolitical maneuvering with us. Having the right facts and, understanding the why behind them makes all the difference in how we view the world.
It really does. And before we go, I want to leave you with one final broader implication to ponder based on everything we've analyzed today.
What's that?
Well, if we connect the localized conflicts to the bigger picture, as regional powers like Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Pakistan build their own independent defense pacts in Mecca, it raises an important question for you to consider. Are we witnessing the beginning of the end for the American-led security umbrella in the Middle East? And if so, what kind of world order fills that vacuum?
That is definitely something to chew on as you go about your week. The world is shifting fast. We'd love to hear what topics or regions you want us to cover next, so please send in your requests for future deep dives. And don't forget to follow Stylo News on all your favorite social media platforms to keep up with the latest data. Until next time, stay informed.